everybody, it's Stephen and Walter here for another episode of So Chatty. It is episode 192 for July the 4th, 2025. Happy Independence Day for the Americans. Enjoy it while it lasts. Whatever. Just saying. Okay, so before we get into today's main topic, as you saw in the title, our shipping company scamming you, I'm going to show you what I have been working on. So I've been working on a quilt for my sister. So I thought I had the top done, but here it is, but it's not done yet. I contacted my sister. I told her this works out to about 78 by 78. And I said, will that be the size you want for the bed you're putting it on? She came back with saying, well, they're not getting a queen, it's a double bed, and what she's read, it's 52 inches by 80 something or something like that.
54 by something.
54 by, yeah, whatever. Anyways, and I said, yep, okay, so do you think this will be, because I said it's the drape. She says, well, mattresses vary in their size by, some are thicker than others and everything. She hasn't got the bed yet, okay? So I'm working in the dark here. And I had suggested to her before that I can make it bigger if she wants it bigger, but it would just be adding a border on it. And so she said, yeah, she didn't mind she didn't want to drape and touch the floor because they have a mouse problem. I don't know. Okay, you're sleeping in a room. This is for a cottage and you have mouse problems. Okay. Anyways, and I think one of the slightest problem, the least problem with that is mice chewing your quilt. I would think there'd be other things you'd like to worry about, but
droppings.
Yeah, like things like that, but whatever. So I said, so I can put another border on it, and I was figuring on putting probably about a 4.5 inch last outside border on it. And she said, yeah, she thought that would be fine. So I laid it out on the floor like this when I took the picture, and I looked through my fabrics. Now, the fabrics that I have that are all of this line, this is the O Canada 13 line, I don't have enough of for the border. I had one that I put down to it, but I thought I'd get another pair of eyes, that was my mistake, on it to say, to Walter, what do you think of this? Walter said no. Immediately. Well, to be honest, I wasn't pleased with it either. But at this point, I was kind of like, yeah, will she care? Only the mice will see it.
Shouldn't that one be going that way?
Well, okay, so I'm figuring about a 4.5 inch border that will give me, another 8 inches all the way around, and that should be plenty. But I don't have the fabric, so I went online and ordered more fabric for this. Well, I also want to make this into a quilt of valor. In fact, originally when I designed this quilt, it is my design, I was planning to make this as a quilt of valor. My sister saw the design, she liked it, she wanted it, so I thought, okay, good, I'm not going to argue with her. Let's get on with it. So that's what I did. So I ordered another $200 worth of fabric for it. It's not all for this, of course, but I figured, well, might as well order the stuff I need for a quilt of valor too. So I did. So I'm waiting for that to arrive. Then I will put the last border on it. Then I'll have my sister either come here, take a look at it, or I'll send her a picture of it, see if everything meets her approval at that point. And then I can put it on Lucy and I will quilt it. Now, I don't know if I'm going to give my sister any kind of choice upon quilting designs. I don't think I will, because I think that's going to open up a whole new kettle of fish for me. I have one that's a maple leaf. I've used it before on Quilts of Valor that I quite like, that I think that's the pattern I am going to use when I quilt it as well. I already have the backing fabric that's from this line and everything too, so I just want to be done with it because I have other projects I want to work on. So anyways, and Walter's sitting here studying at it, and he keeps saying, well, shouldn't that one go this way? Shouldn't that one go this way? No, There is rhyme and reason to this, and I just explained it to him off camera, if you get my drift. Once it's out of this house, he'll never have to look at it again. So he can criticize every other quilt I make from here on in, and he will. And he thinks it's so clever. I swear you're autistic. Okay. So, anyways, what have you been working on?
I've worked a little bit on your shirt.
How far have you got on?
I got the sides and the sleeves and stuff sewn up. I have to hem it and put the collar on.
No.
And the pocket.
So basically, it's not even close to finished.
Well, it's getting there.
Yeah, summer's running by. Anyways, that's the shirt I want to wear to London.
Yeah, I know. I'll get it done.
It's a London shirt. So it's going to be a Birmingham shirt. I'm going to wear it to the Birmingham Quilt Festival when we go there. Okay, so we've got that. Announcements. Sewing with Stephen Wednesdays, 9 a.m. to 5 or to 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Be there, be square. Links in the show notes. Yay. Also, Stephen's birthday bash is coming up. Not this weekend, next weekend. Saturday, July the 12th, starting at 8 a.m. Eastern and running till 5 p.m. Eastern. And again, all are welcome. And there are prizes at this one as well, because after all, it's my birthday. So I will be having prizes. All the link for that, it's a Zoom. It's not recorded. If you've never been to one before, I know some people get a little worried about my pop-up sew days because they think they're going to be broadcast all over the internets and the YouTubes. And no. It's private. It's a private Zoom. So the link for that will be in the show note for all of my videos next week. In fact, I'll probably have the link for it in this week's Stephen and Walter Live as well. So yeah, and those of you that are on the mailing list, you will also get an invitation to it, and that will go out Monday, sometime Monday morning. Okay. Any other announcements? You have anything to announce? Are you pregnant? No?
No.
Thank God. It's not mine. So, yeah. Okay, let's jump into it then, shall we? The cost of shipping. Okay, why are we doing this episode about this? Well, the other day on Sewing with Stephen, one of my regulars friend, Julie, and she said that I could talk about this. And in fact, she was the one suggested that we do talk about this. She asked me a week ago or so for my mailing address. And knowing Julie, because she's a very generous person, I figured, oh, she's going to send me something. Now, I don't want to seem ungrateful for these kind of things, but here's the thing. I don't need anything. And I really appreciate the thought that people put into it that want to send me something, but don't waste your money on me, okay? And in a moment, you're going to find out that it could be a lot more expensive to send me a little something than what you might think. But there is no need to. I don't expect anything, and I appreciate the thought, but don't worry about that, okay? And I had told Julie that too, but Julie wanted to do this. So I got a notice in my email the other day, actually, before we started the Sewing with Stephen session. It was in my morning emails saying that UPS was about to deliver to me a package, and it had some outstanding fees on it. Duties, basically. We're going to talk about duties in a minute, because that affects shipping as well. And they wanted, at the time they said, $44 and some odd cents. And I thought, well, wait, is this a scam? Because there are scams where you'll get an email and say, hi, we're about to deliver a package to you, and it looks like it's from a legitimate courier company or whatever. We just need the payment of, and usually it's a very ridiculously low amount, like $1.48 or $2.05, something like that. So click here, and then when you click on that button, it takes you to a site where you fill out information about your credit card. It's a scam.
Yeah, I had one of those a couple of years ago, but I caught it. I figured it was a scam, so I didn't do it.
But they look pretty legit. And before you know it, then what they have is that the reason they're only asking for a small amount is they're testing the information you sent to them about the credit card. because then they have the information for your credit card, and well, guess what they're going to do with that. So beware of any courier company that sends you a notice. Here's the problem. I just got one, and it was from UPS, United Parcel Services. Now, I studied this because it just happened to fall at the same time as I was expecting something from Julie. And I wasn't sure how that was being sent, but I thought, it did say the package was coming from the Fat Quarter Shop. And I thought, okay, that sounds a little bit more legit, because you can do that. You can go into or online to a quilt store, many of them, and if you want something you're buying online but you're going to give it as a gift, you can have them send it to a different address, to to your friend or something, in a sense. Then it doesn't have to come to you, and then you have to reship it out and that kind of thing. Makes sense. All right, as you're going to find out, though, it also makes them more money, or it's going to not maybe make the store more money, but well, we'll explain all that in a minute. So I decided to log directly into, I have an account with UPS. I went into UPS, into my account, and yep, it was legit. But they didn't want $44. They only wanted $37.16. And I say only wanted. And it was all laid out there. I could print the invoice out, and the invoice showed their fees and something they for taxes, to cover taxes and the duty, which was 20 some dollars, and the rest of the money was their brokerage fees. And basically they're charging you to collect the brokerage fees, the duty fees, and pay it to the government or something on your behalf. It's part of their service. So yeah, so this gift that was being sent to me ended up costing me almost $38 extra on top of it. Now, I did send Julie an email before we got into sewing, and I talked to her about it. I said, did you send me something from the Fat Quarter Shop? She says yes. And of course she was lighting up because she figured that I was going to say, oh, I got it and it's great and wonderful and all that kind of stuff, which I would have said, except I didn't have it yet. I said, well, and this was hard to say this. She was doing this out of the generosity and the goodness of her heart. She did not know, and how would you, that once it got to the border from the Fat Quarter Shop, it was going to be taken over by a company that's going to charge me for all this extra stuff. She did not know that, because she paid for shipping herself too. She paid $45 to have Fat Quarter Shop send it on to me. So basically we've doubled between the two of us the shipping costs for this, for whatever she has sent me. I have not got it yet. It's supposed to be on its way. I was hoping it would be here in time for this today, but doesn't look like it unless it comes while we're recording this. But anyways, yeah. And how do you tell somebody when they've sent you a gift that the gift they've sent you is costing you money? There's no real way to say it. Now, Julie, again, she was appalled by that, and she immediately said, well, I'll cover that cost. And she was going to give me her credit card number. He says, no. Don't worry about it. I know you didn't know that was going to happen. Until this happened, I didn't really know that was necessarily going to happen either for any of it. But that's why she said, and with her permission, she said I could tell this story to all of you, and she thought this is something that we should, Walter and I, investigate a little further and talk a little bit about. So that's what today's episode is all about. You may know these things already, you may not, and I have a feeling most people don't know this, because until this happened to me, I really didn't know it either. So this is a bit of an education session for us all. So first thing you need to do, when you're ordering something online but you are intending to ship it out to somebody else across the border, I'm not talking about within your own country, not within the boundaries of Canada or the boundaries of the United States. I'm talking about cross-border shipping. And you might want to check out exactly how the particular shop you're dealing with is going to send that out and what they're going to charge you, because that can make a lot of difference. If you're sending out something that's worth $50, but you wind up paying 25 to 30 bucks to the store for shipping, and then it comes across the border and the person you've sent it to is now paying about that amount again to receive it, you're spending all the money is all going into shipping, not into the product that you bought. So you may want to investigate that. Now we're going to come back to this in a moment because we're going to compare two of the more well-known stores in the United States and their shipping policy and charges when it's going across the border to Canada. But before we get that, I thought it might be interesting to do a little bit of a comparison in terms of cost between the major shipping businesses, I guess, here in our country. So we're going to look at Canada Post. We're going to look at UPS. Now, here's something you have to be aware of. There's UPS and there's USPS. UPS is the courier company, United Parcel Services. USPS, as the Americans will all know, is the United States Postal Service. Is it a coincidence that UPS uses almost one initial away from sounding like USPS? And I know people get those mixed up. I certainly did when I first heard this. I heard, UPS. I was thinking United States Postal Service. But no, that's USPS. So I'm not saying that UPS, when they started their company, I don't know how many years they've been around. They've been around for a long time, but so has the United States Postal Service too. Did they purposely pick those initials so people might be confused? Nothing surprises me with this particular company. I hate UPS. And when I buy stuff online, and if I'm ordering it for myself, I check beforehand how the quilt store is going to ship it. If it's coming by Canada Post, no problem. I mean, it may take a while, but it's no problem. But if it's coming from UPS, I look to see if there's an alternative that they offer, because I do not like United Parcel Services. That may be just me. It also varies. I mean, maybe in the United States you get better service from that company because they are an American outfit. In Canada, it's different. It's always different in Canada. Okay? It's even weirder in Quebec, but we're not talking about that. Okay, so I looked at Canada Post, UPS. We looked at FedEx. Now, in the conversation I had with some of the people on the Sew Day the other day, there are several there that just absolutely like I hate UPS, they hate FedEx. FedEx, I can see why they hate it and what they've talked about, but from my experience, FedEx has always been pretty good service for it. And then there's one that we have here, and I don't know if they have it in the States, called Purolator. Not one that I use that often.
Purolator is owned by Canada Post.
Oh, that's right. Yes. Okay. There you go. Walter of many knowledgeable Walter. Purolator's actually a subsidiary of Canada Post. But I found out some interesting stuff when I'm doing my comparison about these now. Then, of course, there's private couriers. There's other ones like DHL and something ICS and things like that.
And then we have a Canadian one called Campar.
Yeah, Campar. There's a whole bunch. Well, I'm not going to go into all of those because those are ones that are, these other ones, I think, maybe with the exception of Purolator, both we've heard about on both sides of our border.
Yeah, the Purolator, if there's a U.S. version of it, that's not owned by Canada Post. The Canadian version is owned by Canada.
Yeah. So we're going to start with Purolator. What I did was I went to their sites as if I was going to ship something for real. I kept all the parameters the same. They ask you for the weight. I did it all in old system with it, meaning, like pounds and inches. Box, it was going in a box. The box was 8 inches by 8 inches by 8 inches. And the poundage was 1 pound. That's all it weighed. The value of the contents was $10. And I went for the cheapest service, which makes things take a little longer. But that I did that, and they all were going to the same address. Okay, a fake address for the United States that I had put in. Actually, it's not a fake one, but I'm not going to say whose address it really was. So nobody's going to get anything anyways, because I deleted all that stuff. So to see what I'd come up with, and I'm putting them in order from highest to lowest. The first one, the highest one, was Perlator. Perlator ground to the US. Base cost is $41.95. Fuel surcharge is $9.23, total of $51.18. Now this is something that all of the courier systems in Canada anyways are doing now, including our Canada Post. They have a fuel surcharge. I am so against this. You know, like, they purposely separate it out from their base cost, because what they're trying to do is blaming that cost on the government, on
the cost of fuel at the time.
Yeah, at the time. So this will vary. I dare say that Perlator is gouging on that, because I use the same parameters, and the fuel surcharge for sending it by some of the other methods was less than this. So there you go. It isn't like there is a fixed rate on this or standard. It's really up to the company dealing with this. So if I had sent it at the cheapest, and this was the cheapest, it would get to the person at the end of day, July the 9th. Okay, I did this today. That's 5 days into the future. Okay, at the cheapest. This didn't say that this included tracking, although usually with these companies, tracking is automatic in that. And in fact, on Canada Post, that used to be an extra amount of money. Now, it doesn't matter what level you go for. It all comes with tracking, and you get a tracking number, which I do like. I like having the tracking number. So there you go. Base price, $51.18, or the total price for this 1 pound, 8 inches by 8 inches box of stuff. Expensive, but you know, I could have gone up to $256 on Perlator for exactly the same thing. The only difference was it would have got there tomorrow. $256 for something that I'm valuing in the box at $10. Well, who's going for that? Unless it was an emergency thing that you really had to be there for some reason, like someone's insulin, I don't know, or whatever. So that was Perlator. That was the highest out of the ones I checked. The next one was FedEx. FedEx ground delivery, and when they say ground, that means, yeah, basically they're rolling across the ground. They're not flying it over. Delivered same day, Wednesday, July the 9th, $46.60. Okay, slightly cheaper than Perlator. But here's the breakdown. $33.80 base. Then there's a residential delivery charge, $4.65. Now, you may wonder about that charge, because I did. There's a little checkbox that says, you can take it yourself. Yeah, or they can pick it up. It's not delivered to the house, is what I mean. They can go to wherever FedEx outlet is in their area and pick it up. But I said, no, I wanted it delivered to their door, because isn't that what we usually do? But they're going to charge you $4.65 to drive that sucker to your door, or to the door of the person you're sending it to. Of course, they have a fuel surcharge, but looks, same parameters, $6.15. Well, cheaper than $9 and something from Perlator. But then there's this U.S. inbound processing fee. I have no idea what that is. Is that something to do with at the border or what? I don't know. So that brings it to $46.60. Still a little cheaper than Perlator. Maybe Perlator buries some of these additional charges, like this U.S. inbound and residential delivery, into that overall price. I don't know. They're not very transparent about it. The next one is UPS. And this one surprised me. I thought UPS would be a lot more money. It's still a lot of money, but total charges $29.13. So there's standard UPS standard. I didn't send any of these. I put them all at their cheapest delivery method. $22.71 fuel surcharge, $4.02. Well, that's still cheaper than Perlator. Was that cheaper than
Yeah, FedEx.
Yep, cheaper than FedEx. They have a residential address surcharge though of $2.40. But then they have this little note. Additional duties, taxes may apply and are not reflected in the total amount due. Oh, that's interesting. So you may be expecting to pay $29.13, but the person getting it might be paying what I did with Julie's. Might have to pay duties. But I'm not sure how that works if you send it from Canada to the United States.
Yeah,
because they have different set of rules.
Yeah.
So who knows? But this one was working out cheaper. The next one is, now I kind of did a fake thing with actually looking at what it would cost just to do it the other way, to go through the United States Postal Service, but send it from the States to Canada. So it's really not an exact comparison, but I just wondered what Americans would pay. So this now is being translated. Everything you saw so far was in Canadian dollars.
So is this UPS?
No, this is United States Postal Service.
I see.
And for a tracked package, which was their cheapest, it's $18.76 American. They have a fuel surcharge too of $1.97. Total before taxes, it says, is $20.73. Now, I'm not sure how their taxes work. This is what they said my estimated total was, but I don't know when I was going to get the final total with it. I did put in fake destinations in for this too. But $20.73. Now, the reason I'm showing you that, and remember, this is in American dollars, this one, but this is Canada. No, this was one more thing. Where did I put Canada Post? Oh, did I miss Canada Post? Maybe that is Canada Post. Sorry. I'm jumping ahead of myself. This isn't the United States Postal. This is Canada Post. So Canada Post to the U.S. track package, $18.76. The surcharge, the whole bit. $20.73 with Canada Post. Okay. So, yeah. Now, if you go online and you're ordering stuff from Canadian quilt stores, most of them ship by Canada Post. Then we had COVID, and a lot of them started going to the other couriers, but they're coming back to Canada Post now. But there are some problems with Canada Post, but have nothing to do with the price, have everything to do with management on them. But anyways, that's where most of them are, most Canadian quilt stores are sending things by Canada Post. So that's going to be your cheapest method.
So that if that's in Canadian dollars, that thing.
What's it in American dollars?
Hang on. I got $2.73. I don't want to.
Well, that would be a bargain.
Okay, that works out to $15.28 American.
Yeah. So far cry from all the other ones. But there's a trade-off with all of these, okay? The trade-off is this: speed, reliability. I can only speak for Canada Post. I cannot speak for the U.S. Postal Service because we don't use it, obviously. But Canada Post is not bad, but it can be hit and miss.
Well, I have ordered things from the U.S. before on USPS because I sometimes avoid UPS if I order from the U.S.
Yeah. And
it sometimes takes quite a while for it to be sent from whatever location for it to get to the border.
And then when things do come across the border, there can be a delay on that.
Yeah, it can take quite a while to process. Canada Post takes quite a while to process a package that comes across the border.
And then in the case of where we live in Ontario, there is a huge distribution center for Canada Post in Mississauga, or as I like to refer it, to Black Hole of Mississauga, because when packages go in there, they may never come out for a while.
Yeah, they take a while to come out.
They're not speedy. And as one of my subscribers who's a Canadian refers to Canada Post as Canada Post and Parking. Yeah. So, you know, you're trading off cheaper price for speed of delivery, whereas the other places tend to be much quicker in getting their deliveries out, but you pay for it. Okay. All right. So, that takes us then to, let's talk about duties and taxes, because that's what I got from Julie's package, is what I got stuck with from UPS. So first of all, before we do that, this is what I want to talk about the US. Let me find it here. This, without in order for me to have actually tried to do a fake delivery, I had to create an account and everything like that, and I didn't want to create an account on a US postal system. But I did find this on Google. They said to ship a small lightweight package under 1 pound, well, the package I've been working with is 1 pound, from the US to Canada using first class package international service, you might expect to pay around $15 to $20. It is unclear whether that is in US money or Canadian money for this. However, if you need to ship a larger, heavier package, meaning 5 pounds, and want it delivered quickly, you must choose Priority Mail International or Priority Mail Express International, and the cost could easily be $40 or more.
I would assume that since you're putting it through the American system, that the dollar figures are in American dollars.
Yeah, probably. So even more for us as Canadians. Okay, but here's what they say about customs and duties. Packages shipped to Canada may be subject to Canadian customs duties and taxes, which are separate from the USPS shipping costs. These fees are the responsibility of the recipient, so the person getting it. Gifts valued at Canadian $60 or less are typically exempt from GST. So that would suggest that maybe that is Canadian dollars up there.
It's at, oh, okay.
Because of that, we're not sure. But either way, customs and duties is the important part here. When you're delivering, when you're sending stuff to Canada, but it's not you, the sender, that's going to get
typically
nailed.
if an individual sends a gift, provided it's less than 60 Canadian, which is about 40 American. Actually, it's more like 50 American. If you say that gift is only worth $10 or something, usually they don't charge us what they call GST. However, we have to pay provincial tax.
Yeah,
on that,
sales tax. We have a lot of taxes here. But anyway, so yeah, the whole idea of me showing you all of this is just to make you aware of the ins and outs of shipping things. There are choices that you may have to make. And also it depends on how much you're willing to spend on some shipping things across the border.
Now, the amount, the duties and taxes, if we get that, we have to pay it. You don't have to pay it.
Yeah, that's what I just said.
The shipper, yeah.
I said that you as the shipper do not have to pay the duties. It's whoever is receiving it that you've sent it to, they may get nailed for that. And isn't that a nice surprise when you get a note on your email or something and you're expecting this lovely gift from somebody and you're having to pay for that lovely gift on top of it? That was what happened.
If Canada Post, with getting it this way through Canada Post, we usually just have to pay the duties and taxes if it comes through. With other providers like UPS, which Steve will probably get to, they often have other fees that they charge on top of that, which adds to the cost.
They have something called, UPS has something called brokerage fee, which is, I don't know if it's a percentage of whatever the duties are, but it's an additional fee. It's a fee for their service. They're looking after paying your duties on your behalf. They're getting the money from you, but that's just part of their service, right? Well, they're a business. Okay, so we have to accept the fact that they are not doing this out of the goodness of their hearts. Okay, that they're
I believe
making
the
money
brokerage is paid by us when it comes across the border.
Yes,
okay,
it is paid by us, but you're being charged for it through UPS.
No, I know that. Yeah, okay. But you made it sound like the people that were sending it were paid.
No, I had finished that sentence. There was a period. Okay. Are you all completely confused now?
All right.
I'm confused now. What was I going to do? Okay. So, carrying on with this whole thing about duties, all right? What do duties mean in Canada? This is the simple definition. Duty is a tariff payable on a good imported to Canada. Rates of duty are established by the Department of Finance Canada and can vary significantly from one trade agreement to another. And this is all this stuff about the tariff wars playing in here. This is a very simple one sentence definition of it. So it depends on what you're buying, all of that, what the industry is, and what the tariffs would be. But bottom line is, if there's a tariff on it, if there's duty on it, you, the recipient, are going to have to pay that in one form or another. So as of March 4th, 2025, in response to U.S. tariffs on Canadian-made goods, Canada is imposing a retaliatory 25% tariff on certain U.S. products charged as a surtax. This surtax is not factored into the estimator tool. The amount you have to pay will be determined by a border services officer when you arrive at the border or when your package arrives at the border. Now, there's something here called an estimator tool. We'll come to that in a minute. But this was in March 4th, 2025. We know that that's still in flux. All of that. The dates change, the amounts change, it depends.
The products change.
Yeah, and all that kind of stuff. So this is just sort of a general overview statement of what these are. But the bottom line is a duty. When we say duty, we mean tariff.
Well, no, it's tariff. Duty is also our Canadian taxes as well.
Okay, but oftentimes on things that I have looked at, they call it duty and taxes.
Yeah, okay, so
they don't say
duty and
they
taxes,
separate them out.
Sorry.
Anyways, the bottom line of all of this is you're going to be paying for it. Okay. All right. Here is the calculator. So I put in some stuff. So I decided I was going to buy from the United States $100 worth of fabric. Okay. So what to figure
Are
what
you putting it on the screen?
Oh, yeah. To figure this out in this little calculator, first of all, I had to put, where do I live? Ontario. What product did you buy? This is tricky. They have categories. There's a pull down menu here. I can't pull this down because this is a screen share, or not screen share, a screen capture. There was nothing specific to fabric. The closest was apparel. In that was a subcategory. There was nothing that talked about bolts of fabric or anything like that.
Now, I did some research when the tariffs were imposed, and at the time I could not find anything that said fabric.
The fabric has a tariff.
It was like clothing and stuff like that. But...
And the same here. But just for shits and giggles, I decided I would just call it clothing. And I did. Down here it says, was the product made in a CUSMA country, meaning Canada, the United States, and Mexico are the CUSMA countries. You know, we have this deal, supposedly, we had that we made with Trump back when he was in power the first time, and now he's just rescinding it. He's just not even agreeing to it. But anyway, I put, no, it was made elsewhere. Why? Where does most of our fabric come from? China. Okay. So I said, no, it was not made in Mexico, Canada, or the United States. And how much did the product cost? And that's where, and it's cut off here, but I put in $100 is what I put in. This is what they estimate the duty and the taxes would be. So if I'm in America, if I'm figuring this out and I'm sending something, no, how does this work? If I was going to get something from the United States,
right,
with this is the additional amount I would have to pay beyond the basic shipping charges the company is selling me. And here's where we have duty and taxes separated out. The duty is at 18% of the value and taxes at 13% of the value. We're not going to get into, like, this is what's called our harmonized tax, HST. It's 13% total.
It's retail sales tax for the province plus
Federal
GST, which is
goods and service
goods and
tax,
services tax.
which is what our government has. So if you come to Ontario and you're buying anything in our stores, you're going to have to add 13% on whatever the sticker price is, because that's going to be, you're going to get nailed for that at the cash register. But it works with this too. So it's going to cost me another, or actually, if somebody was to send this to me from the States, whatever I would have to pay before they would deliver it to me, $33.34, roughly. Okay, so there you go. That's all that. Now, I know this is all very complicated, but these are charges that you may not anticipate when you send something across the border. We're not talking about sending it within our own countries. We don't pay duties on stuff that goes from one place to another place within our own countries. But it's when we have to send it to across the border, then all of this takes effect. Okay, so back to Julie. Julie, I don't think I have any more slides up here. No, I don't. So I got Julie, or I'm getting Julie's package. I got that notification. I paid the duty of $37 and some odd cents and everything on it. She ordered it from the Fat Quarter shop and had them send it to me from their shop rather than send it to her, and then she became responsible for, you know, doing all the stuff you need to do to ship things out. She didn't know that I was going to get nailed with duty because no one told her that, of course, and nobody thinks of that, really. And so that's what I mean. Not her fault, okay, at all with that. But I went to the Fat Quarter shop and I looked up their information about their shipping, and they have written a book about shipping. And I'm just going to highlight a couple of things here. Their standard shipping is usually done by the United States Postal Service, they tell you. But they use UPS, United Parcel Services. Ground service is $15. And then they have you get it free if you buy over $250. And of course, it's a little different when you send things to Alaska or Hawaii, but we're talking, this is all within the United States itself. And they talk about when things will be shipped out. But if you want to ship it outside of the United States, then they have a chart. And I'm going to go down to the part that talks about Canada. So here we are. So if you buy something for under $20, if they send it by international mail, which would be through the United States Postal Service, it's going to cost you $8. But if you send it by UPS, it's going to cost you $20. Okay? It might or might not get there faster. Now, they've picked it at one level. There are several levels you can go with UPS. They picked Worldwide Expedited, which means supposedly going to get there faster. But you're going to pay $20 for a $20 item, for an item under $20. And then, of course, it goes up from there. That does not include whatever your recipient, when it gets across the border to Canada, like we said, the duties and everything. Where on here does it warn Julie that that was going to happen? They don't. And to be fair to Fat Quarter Shop, buyer beware. I mean, they're not dealing with what happens at the border. That's beyond their control. So
you scroll up a little bit. No, the other way. That's not up, that's down. Okay, order shipped UPS worldwide packages.
These shipments will go through customs. So please read our policy on customs and duties and taxes below. Okay, so customs, duties, and taxes. Any customs duties or taxes are the responsibility of the customer. Some countries may require us to collect taxes, GST or VAT, on their behalf. We will do so only if required, and applicable taxes will be shown during checkout. Customers are responsible for understanding the laws and processes related to duties and taxes in their country and region. We cannot control whether a package gets delayed and or charged duties and taxes by the custom officers in any international country. So that's what I mean. There's that. how many people actually go to this page? This page is not obvious. I found this page by going down here to the bottom. There's a dinghy. And where did I find it? There, shipping and delivery, quick links. That's where I found it. And that's where you may find it on a lot of web pages. It's not usually something that's up front and center unless they're offering you a real deal to get you to buy stuff. You know, you buy this amount, you'll get free shipping.
And I had the same experience once a few years ago. I bought a bunch of stuff from the Fat Quarter Shop for a Black Friday sale, and they shipped it. But at that time, they shipped it via USPS.
Yeah.
But I still had to pay a bunch. When they shipped it by USPS, it took forever to come to me. It took almost a month. And I had to pay a whole bunch of duties and taxes.
The other thing about Fat Quarter Shop, too, is what I have heard that delivery, depending on where you live in the United States, can take a long time from them. I don't deal with Fat Quarter Shop. I don't deal with any American quilt places anymore, given everything that's going on these days. But I wanted to mention Fat Quarter Shop because everybody pretty much knows Fat Quarter Shop, and also because it was related to Julie's order to me. But let's talk about Missouri Star because they handle it very differently. Now, before I show you how it was different, when I did order from Missouri Star Quilt back a long time ago, before they got on the ball and really changed how they ship things now, it took forever. I had one package, if you can believe it. It took over a month to get to me. Why? Because it went to Switzerland. It did a loop. I contacted Missouri Star Quilt and said, this is nuts. What's happened? Was there a mistake? No, we don't know. The company we ship it with, for some reason, they like to do a trip around the world. That was the answer I got. And I said, well, I won't be ordering from you again because I really don't need my fabric to travel on its own. I haven't been to some of the places that fabric's been. And but now they really got wise in the last few years. And so here is their shipping for that's domestic. Let's go down here to Canadian rates. So this is coming from Missouri to Canada. Our friends north of the border, Missouri Star currently pays all duties for all Canadian orders. It is a $20 USD flat rate shipping on all orders. Packages are shipped via FedEx's International Economy option and delivered within 2 to 7 days, depending on the proximity to the U.S. $20.
Now, mind you, I have ordered from Missouri Star, and I have been charged $20 for the flat rate. Plus, I had to pay a duties and taxes fee that was equal to our GST.
Because, as you know, in the last few years, I have ordered the Advent box. And the Advent box, I paid $20. And I didn't have any GST or anything more on it either.
Okay, well, that may be an update from the last time I bought from them.
That's the only thing I buy from Missouri Star Quilt.
And it gets delivered. I got it delivered before through FedEx. It comes really quickly.
Yep.
And I didn't have to pay any extra duties.
Yeah. So the reason I bring this up is because this is what I said at the beginning of this session. Check out how things are sent from your quilt store that you're ordering from uses as their shipping.
Yeah, now they do have do you want me to say this?
Yeah.
Okay. There is even UPS has it, but there's a couple of options.
Did I show this?
No, probably not.
Okay, you keep talking. Here's what we were talking about. Sorry, I didn't show it. This is on Missouri Star Quilt. Okay, so carry on.
Yeah, so shipping companies, including FedEx and UPS, has two ways of sending international packages, and one is called delivery duty paid. And what this says, it says when the shipper pays, this is when the shipper pays duties, fees, and taxes, right? It is called delivery duty paid. This can improve customer service by providing extra clarity and transparency during the buying process. So what happens is that in this case, it would be Missouri Star. They're picking up the duties and fees and taxes, and they're using this delivery duty paid, right? Some companies do that. I've had that. I've ordered fabric from Mood Fabrics in New York, and they do the same thing. So when the package comes to us, we don't pay any extra stuff.
So basically what we're talking here is eliminating surprise charges you're not expecting. And that is obviously what Missouri Star Quilt figures is an attractive feature for people to order that are on the other side of the border from them. And I say bully for them, because comparing that to what we just saw with the Fat Quarter Shop in their policies and that, I would be more tempted to order from Missouri Star Quilt because I may have a big surprise in charges if I get it from Fat Quarter.
Actually, the other company that I've ordered from was either Cleaner Supply or Wawak, and they do the same thing.
Yeah.
And what else happens is it doesn't get hung up at the border for processing. So it just goes straight to the customer.
So they have worked out the paperwork for all of that and figured that out. Why then, if there's a lot of companies, as Walter just mentioned some, if there are companies that are actually doing this, why doesn't the Fat Quarter Shop do it?
Now, there's this other way of doing it, and that's the way probably the Fat Quarter Shop does it. It's called delivery duty unpaid. Means the receiver will need to pay.
Yeah.
So that's what they get. So
what's more attractive?
Yeah, so for us, we're careful who we pick to purchase from in the U.S. if we're buying something from the U.S.
Yep.
We're careful how they ship their products. If it's delivery duty paid or delivery duty
and
unpaid.
in most cases that will determine who we will do business with and who we won't do business with. So it seems to me it behooves any company that doesn't look into this and think about doing this, they're losing business. However, having said that, not everybody, in fact, the vast majority of people who are ordering online, they see something they want, it's at a particular store, they're not looking at all these other details. They're just accepting that this is what it's going to cost me at face value. Like, that's all I'm going to have to pay. Then they get the rude awakening when it comes across the border. So it pays to study the shipping policies and shipping, or who they ship with, from the store you want to buy something from. And unless it's something you can't get anywhere else, this is the only place, then you might have to swallow that cost because you want this bad enough with it. But I'm sure in the case of buying fabric, there's other places that sell the same fabric.
Okay. Yeah, but I've had a few items that I've wanted to purchase over the years that there's my only source of getting it was somewhere in the U.S. So I've had to pay the duties.
Yeah, well, that's what I just said. I mean, if you can't get it anywhere else, or you want it that bad, then you are going to take the chance you're going to be paying that much more for it. Now, speaking of paying that much more or that much less, as a sideline to all of this, why are Americans not buying fabric from Canadian quilt stores? And this goes to something that you've heard me talk about on here many times before. Americans do not understand exchange rates, don't understand the value of their own money. Okay, here's what happens. Go to a Canadian quilt store online. Most of them, not all of them, but most of them will ship to the United States. It will be a little bit more expensive than if it was within our own countries, but yeah, logically so. You probably, as Americans, will not have to pay a duty on it because you have a totally different duty structure than we do in Canada. But who knows, that could be changing given, what's happening with the world, with the tariff war. But for now, okay. Second of all, you are going to get it at a lower price. Now, you're going to look at the price of our fabric and you're going, oh my God, that's expensive. $20 a meter. Okay. You pay like a yard. Okay. Meters are different from yards. Okay. A meter is 39 inches. A yard is 36. You're actually getting 3 inches more for your money. Okay. Not that that makes a big bearing on it. You know, it's close enough, but whatever. If you saw a piece of fabric you wanted and you want 1 yard of that, and if they're shipping it by Canada Post, and most of them do, we've already determined that Canada Post is pretty much the cheapest route to go on when it comes to shipping. You add that to the price of your fabric that you're buying or whatever, then you get to take another 30 to 35% off that bottom price, off that total, because your money is worth 30 to 35% more than ours. It is called the exchange rate. So your $20 fabric, if you, let's put it at the lowest, 30% off of that is $6 off of that. So that's going to put your fabric down to $14 for a yard. That also applies to your shipping costs as well. And 30, actually, it's more closer to 35%. Might even be higher than that.
It's 36 right now.
It's 36%. So take an extra 36% off. There are bargains to be had by shopping on the other side of the border for Americans because of that. Not only that, but all these quilt stores have sales online all the time. And you can take that 36% off. Now, you're going to say, but how do I do it? Where's the little box I put that in? No, you're going to be charged
In
the
Canadian
total amount
dollars.
in Canadian dollars. But if you're buying by credit card, which you probably are, no one's sending cash across the border, then your credit card company is going to automatically do the reduction. That's how exchange rate works. Okay? It works in reverse for us.
Yeah, when we buy something in the U.S., for every dollar we spend, it costs us $1.36.
So if we buy a piece of fabric for $1 American dollar, it costs us $1.36.
It costs us in Canadian dollars.
In Canadian dollars. So right now, bargain city. And yet, most of the Americans I have talked to have never even thought of ordering anything from Canada.
Yeah, because our fabric is so expensive. Because they
Because
look
it's
at
Canadian dollars.
at the Canadian dollar as if it's a U.S. dollar. It's not.
Yeah.
It's apples and oranges.
So I guess the bottom line here is all you need to know is this. When you see the total amount that you're going to be spending, reduce it by 30 to 36%, given whatever the exchange rate is on the day that you're buying it. Take that off. Take off a 30%. Okay? Bargain. Really. I don't know how to explain that any more clearly than that. Okay? So, that's what we want to talk about today. And I suppose in the bigger scheme of things, people have been asking the question since the tariff wars had started, how is that going to affect us as quilters? Well, it does. But it affects us more or less depending on cross-border ordering. Who knows down the road? And right now, I don't think there's any tariffs on fabric like quilting.
Well,
fabric.
not on going our way, but
No.
It might be going the other way.
Maybe, but the thing is, no fabric is made in the United States or Canada. It all comes from overseas. So, yeah. So who knows? But at least now you won't be in shock, especially the Canadians. You know, when if you order something, if you are bothering to order anything from the States, you get that extra charge. Be prepared for it. Set it aside in your budget. And you know, if it comes to your door and you didn't have to pay what you were budgeting for in duties, that's just more money you've got to buy more fabric with. Or food. Whatever is more important. Okay. So that's it today. Any final comments you wish to make?
No.
No. So just one final little thought. Stephen and Walter Live, of course, will be on Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern as usual, but it is the first Stephen and Walter Live of the month. And you know what that means. I have a draw for a mystery box of 3D printed items. Most of the time, it is Americans who win it, and I ship it out. And it costs, now you have an idea roughly how much it costs me to ship it out to you. I am not complaining about this. This is something that I do. But just so you know that that's what happens. The thing is, you don't have to worry about paying any duty on that if you're a winner and you get it. And I also double checked with the past winners to make sure I'm right about that, but I was pretty sure I was. But yeah, so you might win something duty free. Yeah, from Stephen and Walter Live. Enjoy. Okay, that's it for us. Have a great 4th of July for the Americans, and everybody else have a great weekend. And we'll see you next week for more titillating and stimulating seminars. Okay, say goodbye, Walter.
Goodbye.